To make breakfast sausage, first you have to have some meat. You can make breakfast sausage with beef, chicken, turkey, or pork. You could even use goat, but we wouldn't do that to Bean. At Alderman Farms, we grow most of our own meat. Today we're going to be using pork from our American guinea hogs. We harvested this American guinea hog 4 days ago, and we've had it on ice ever since. Of course, I've got to clean my meat really good before I start making my breakfast sausage. Next, I have to debone my meat. I'm going to keep my bones here in the pot to make some bone broth, and my bigger pieces of meat, I'm just cutting them in strips to fit in my grinder. All right, I just ground that ground meat with my coarse, and now I'm going to use the fine attachment to go on my grinder. I find it makes it a lot easier to grind your ground meat coarse first and then to do it fine. Don't hate me. I really don't have a recipe. I can tell you what I do though. This is 5 pounds of ground pork, and I am going to go ahead and measure what I'm doing. So I'm going to start off with a tablespoon of salt. And see, I usually just sprinkle it in. That's why I say I don't have a recipe. So, all right, there's salt. And then I like to put some Tony's, and I'm just going to cover the top of it. Good. All right, and I get my onion powder and garlic powder from Azure Standard, and I've kept these containers to put it in. So the seasoning is really good and strong. So I'm gonna start with a tablespoon of onion powder and a tablespoon of garlic. And I have sage that I have from my garden that I've dehydrated. And so let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna start with about 4 leaves of sage, and I'm gonna grind them up in my hand, and it smells amazing. Now, I don't like a heavy sage in my sausage, so you might like more than that. I'm also gonna put some of my parsley in here that I grew in my garden that I dehydrated. I dehydrated the sage too. I don't know if I said that.
Yep.
I'm gonna put a little parsley in here. I'm gonna put a little bit more parsley than that. All righty. And I'm also gonna put a few cayenne peppers in here. I'm just gonna break them up like that. And I guess I could put this in a food processor. And these aren't that crispy anymore, but it'll still be good. I'm gonna mix it up, it'll give the flavor. So before I start mixing, I'm gonna heat my pan because I'm going to try this out once I get it mixed up. Okay, I'm just gonna get everything mixed in real good. I wanted my pan heating up where my sausage will cook right quick. And what I'll do is I'll cook just a little piece of meat to see how it tastes. And then I can adjust the salt and the seasonings going on taste. But I will write this down after this video because I am measuring things. I'm gonna have it good and mixed up, and I'm just gonna take just a little piece. I don't know if you call it a little piece, a little bit like this, and I'm gonna fry it in my pan and taste it. All right, I have a little sausage cooked. I'm gonna taste it. That tastes pretty good. I'm thinking you could use a little bit more sage in it. I'm gonna double the sage. You do have to be careful with sage because it will take over in flavor, and I don't want that to happen, but I do want a little bit of that sage taste. I'm gonna mix this up, and I'll try me another piece. Stay tuned, and I'll show you what I do to keep this sausage in the freezer for a very long time. All right, here's my second try for my sausage. Just right. It has a hint of sage, and that's what I wanted. The trick to preserving your food for a long time and keeping it from getting freezer burned is to use 2 bags. You don't have to use 2 freezer bags. These are sandwich bags that I'm using today, and they're very thin, but I'm gonna have 2 layers. That's what's gonna keep my meat from getting freezer burned. All right, now what I'm doing right now is I'm turning down the tops of the bags. That way I don't get meat all along my sealing edge. So I'm just going to turn down all the tops of my bags, and I'm going to be freezing some of this in 1 pound and some of it in a 1/2 pound. It's just me and Tommy, and we don't need a whole pound sausage. So I'll do the 1 pound whenever I have company. I just will take it by the handful and put it in my bag. I'm gonna start out with my 1 pound bags first. And you don't have to have a precise scale. Any kitchen scale will do. That's approximately right, you know. Because it's not like we're selling this, it's just for our own personal use. One thing I did want to point out is you see how flat we've made our bags. When we take this out of the freezer, it will thaw really quick. This is the 1/2 pound bags, and this is the 1 pound bags. Then the second thing is I've labeled my second bag, and I will put my sausage in there. And I'm going to use separate bags, and so then I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to get all the air out that I possibly can, and that'll be ready for the freezer. And I'll do the same thing with my 1/2 pound bags. And I'll kind of stagger them in here, sure I can get them out. And then I'll remove the air the same way. Now remember, you don't have to go out and buy a whole hog to be able to make breakfast sausage. You can make it out of all kind of different meats. In fact, if you try this recipe, leave me a comment below and let me know how it turned out. Go watch our green bean video next. There's a link down in the description.